ladies and gentlemen, this is Hyper, and we're going to now hear about it. So take two, let's make them feel awesome, and give them a huge round of applause for being
Thank you for keeping everybody warm while we're trying to figure this out. I appreciate it. So, who here has built an app before? Raise your hand, please. Okay, so let's say a quarter of the room, maybe half. Who here has failed or shut down the product or did not launch successfully or something happened in the process of it? Okay, so a couple people, almost the same amount. So here we are almost in 2020, and there are a lot of people that don't have success. We don't talk about the people that fail or the people that don't successfully launch. We typically talk about the people who do have success, and we talk about the people who are raising funds. And the reality of it is, there are a lot of people out there that are wasting millions of dollars on products and not having the opportunity to even grow the product or build community around this product or problem they're trying to solve because they're still worrying about building the product successfully. And it's for this reason why I decided to pivot my company into what we're calling Hyper.
Sorry, 5 minutes left.
Oh, okay. I thought you were just asking a question. So, why 1 million cups? I figure, hopefully I'm not going backwards, but I just kind of start with that right now. So, the first thing is that, yes, I am looking for a friend. And like we were talking about loving ourselves and gratitude for ourselves, entrepreneurship is hard, right? I've used all of my, I guess you can call it cards, talking with my wife, right? She no longer wants to hear it, and this is the millionth idea. It's lonely. I mean, you connect with entrepreneurs, you talk about the products, you talk about who's doing this and who's doing that. There's some people ahead of you, there's some people behind you. The reality of it is, we're all so busy that we're not just picking the phone up and calling each other. I mean, some of us do, and when we do, we're trying to vent everything that's on ourselves. But the reality of it is, most days in the month, you're by yourself trying to do something that's never been done. Looking for a vet, someone who's in the SaaS area, who's ever built a SaaS product, someone with VC experience or experience locally in Irvine, right? This is a new community for me, so trying to build that out. And then also feedback on the deck. So I'm going to jump through this and make it quick. So in software development, there are still 3 major issues that we're facing: miscommunication, faulty process, and execution failure. So these problems, along with others, actually cost the United States just in 2018 $3 trillion, right? It's either loss of software, troubled or canceled products, and finding and fixing bugs. Yeah. So the solution for this is a new technology that we're building to help software development teams increase their speed, efficiency, and success rate. How we're going to do that is just like any other manufacturing process. There's design, engineering, testing, deployment, and scaling. And we're hoping that our product will give entrepreneurs this opportunity to not necessarily focus so much on the process, but focus on delivering great products and getting to growth and building a community. So a simple comparison to how this product works is just like automotive manufacturing. There are stages and phases, and you want to pump as many products through the line as possible. Just like automotive, our process does not vary too widely. So you have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and the process is at a high level, relatively 5 to 6 different stages. The entire market size for the SaaS community is around $300 billion, growing at a 21.2% CAGR in 2023. We're hoping that we can obtain domestically about 0.5% of that market with our product, which would equate to around $1.5 billion in revenue. So why hasn't this been done before? Well, you see a lot of products out there that help with process, that help with collaboration, but they all kind of handle one piece of the puzzle. Our goal is to focus on throughput and integration with your favorite tools. That way, in the design phase, you might use Sketch or Envision. The engineering phase, you might use Asana or Mixpanel. We want these additional tools to plug into our tool. We're focused on the process and throughput, not necessarily changing what you do every day. So our growth strategy, we're going to start working with a few incubators and accelerators. We're currently the a preferred vendor at the Anderson Venture Accelerator. We have been working with Pepperdine University and hopefully other accelerators out there. This is our team. I'm the founder, my friend Chris, Catherine, and IK, all really talented experts. Worked with really big brands. I myself have worked with Blizzard, EDG, and Whisper, a venture-backed company. Catherine, CrowdRise, IK, the NFL, Chris, WeWork. This is our advisory board. Really, really talented people, really smart, working in the VC space, also publicly traded companies, Ring, Grindr, Veris, Genius Brands, and Certified. And you can see some of those companies right there. So, I think I covered that. Yeah, did I hit the number? So, this is repeating the same thing that I said earlier. If you have questions about what we're trying to raise and what we're trying to do, we can get into that. But really, I wanted to share with you guys what we're doing and, just get an opportunity to practice and share what's going on here. So, thank you.
Could I ask for one quick clarification, which is, what exactly is it that you do? You gave us a lot of details, but you didn't give us the 30-second pitch.
So Hyper is a software development platform that helps tech teams build products faster in a more structured way. Yeah.
Very good. Good. Now let's go back and clap now.
All right, so let's take a few minutes. We'll take like 3-4 minutes at our tables. We'll talk together, figure out how we can be of service, and we'll connect back. All right. So bringing our focus back towards the center here, we will get part 2 going. So we wanted to take a quick second and show people a piece of content that will help contextualize exactly what his product is doing. So let's take a quick second here and follow along with this with him. We're almost there. Awesome.
Thanks. So we're just having a quick discussion over there, and really we're just trying to visualize how the product works. I don't have internet access, so I can't really jump into like the, beta that we launched about 6 months ago. But I can show you guys some UI of the version prior to us rebranding. And in a project space, typically a product manager and a designer, they need a few things. A product manager needs workflow, user experience, logic. A designer needs artboards. And as a designer myself, when I design in Sketch or InVision or Adobe, not InVision, excuse me, I will create the UI in these artboards. And so what's happening is the product manager starts by producing the project space. The designer who's working remotely can create the designs in his own private environment and then upload the designs there. What we're looking to do is the ability for the developer to jump in, start adding comments, looking at how the process works and it flows, and then scope out the project that way. We were originally calling it Pizza App because we wanted to call it as simple as making a pizza, building a product, but we eventually landed on Hyper. So this is kind of like a visualization of the tool right now. As you can see, like here, you can build out the product in steps. You can add photos or documentation or link it to Confluence or Jira. So this is kind of where it's at. We're actually doing an internal review of V2 of the product in 2 days. I wish it was done today so I could actually show it to you, but and then we're looking to do a relaunch of the product in the progress in January 30th. So not to detract from the questions, I just wanted to give a visual on where we are with the product right now.
All right, question 1.
Hey, I just have a question on kind of your revenue model. You're going after incubators. My assumption is that's actually not your customer. You're going through that to somehow get into with companies or whatever. Could you speak to how you actually, maybe you're not charging anybody right now and that's okay, but how do you think you're actually going to charge for this?
We've actually been trying different revenue models, and the initial model that we did, unfortunately, was a bit white glove. Part of the product was done, part of it wasn't finished. We produced about $100,000 in revenue under 7 months, but the way that people were using the product, we ended up doing more work, and it became more of an agency feeling, and so we wanted to detract ourselves from that. So our goal with working with accelerators, like for example UCLA, is to get in with these product teams early and have them utilize our tool. In some ways that we're actually thinking about charging revenue is kind of like the Slack model. I do have deck available here for you. This is actually better for Q&A. But one of the models that we're looking at is charging on a per user basis. So the first user might be free, the first project space might be free, but as the product manager or entrepreneur builds his or her team out, adding a developer, adding a designer, adding different people into the mix, we're charging $9.99 per user. So
Got it.
that's-
So the incubator is really, that's the start of your funnel to get companies in, and then you end up charging the individual team for using the product. Okay.
Hi, I just want to make sure I understand the product. Is it like a prototyping tool? Is that what you essentially have?
So that's a good question, and him and I, can you remind me your name one more time? Matthew. Matthew and I were talking about this. So a lot of these tools, they focus on like collaboration and documentation. The product manager needs to get in and build out the workflow of the product. He needs to know everything. He needs to know data, analytics. So one of the first initial parts in the design and research phase is prototyping for the product manager. He has to visualize what this product is. If he's later stage and the product's already in market, when he's looking at analytics, he might see drop off at certain points in the workflow. So he can come and produce a new workflow, and here the designer can design against it, and then they can go and test it, A/B test it using their current way of distributing their app. And so that process starts here. Product manager can prototype his concept early.
So it's a wireframing tool. It's a tool that you can create wireframes.
It's one of the features in the tool, correct?
What other features are there in the tool?
So we're looking for a documentation. We're looking to add the ability to export assets from the designer into the space. We're looking to eventually integrate with Envision. So if you do a plugin that takes the product itself and throws it into Envision, instead of you going into Envision and like rearranging the artboards and setting up hotspots, you should be able to export it directly from our tool.
Okay, I see. And then the last part of the question, it kind of sounds like it's a really nice wireframing tool. There are other wireframing tools out there, free ones as well, that are very beautiful, in my opinion. What's your competitive advantage?
We focus more so on the entire process, not necessarily just one part of the process. Just like manufacturing, the process has been locked down and people are producing cars and there's more throughput. With software development, every team has a different process, and you're starting to see that a lot of teams aren't having success. So by focusing on that 5-stage, the wireframing is one part of it, but we don't necessarily want this to be a one-trick pony. We want the product manager to have all of his tools available, his process set up in place, and integrations ready for their team to start delivering products and updates to that product more frequently and faster.
I was thinking of it more as like a workspace with integrations attached to it more than just wireframing itself. That's, at least, am I incorrect?
Correct.
I thought your presentation was great, and I loved it, but I'm not a software guy, so for me to get more out of it would be press more on the pain points. What is the problem with the process? Why is it such a big issue, and what problem are you solving? So I think that's what did come across to me as not being a software guy. But then again, you're not selling to me, so that's part of the other thing too.
It's still valuable feedback. One of my advisors this morning, I told him I was pitching, and he's like, just make sure you dumb it down. We've gone through so many revisions of this, so at this point, I'm wide open for feedback, and I have to do those things. So I can't assume that everyone knows technology, so it's good feedback. Thank you.
Kevin actually addressed my question, which was what are your competitive advantages? Because there's Figma and XD and similar platforms to kind of do what you described initially as your features. But so as somebody who is a little bit familiar, I was still kind of unclear about that. So again, I don't want to
Yeah, no, happy to answer. So I'm actually a product designer, and I use all those tools: Figma, XD, Envision, Proto.io, Flinto, Framer. I've used them all. And again, those are tools that I use, but it doesn't mean that you as a product designer and entrepreneur are going to use those tools. You're going to use something else. So again, we're focused on the process of product development, more from an entrepreneur's perspective or for a larger organization, a product manager's perspective. A product manager needs to know the entire workflow from beginning to end. He needs to know that his teammates are going to be using different tools. So by enabling me, the designer, to go and upload my designs into this kind of siloed project space, I now have oversight of the process from beginning to end. Those features aren't built out yet, but that's the goal for 2020.
Hi. I'm completely clueless when it comes to app designs and all that kind of stuff, but my past life was corporate controller of small companies where we were setting up new ERP systems. what I would suggest that you do is kind of give an example of a day in the life of a small company with how this could be used. I was excited with your product when you first kind of started seeing it because I could see how I would have been able to use it at my companies. When you showed me your product thing, I got even more excited. So the phrases that I would use as a controller would want to hear is approval process. So your product developer can go in and finagle. It's approved at that level. Now that your marketing team and sales team gets in, they design the bottle label. Great, now it's approved. So now my procurement team can go out and start sourcing those materials, and this will get connected to my ERP system so that way I can have my cost. I know my cost, my sales team is out there in the field trying to identify the market demands and requirements and my sales forecasting. How many bottles with this label do I need? So all of these pieces connect, but they need the approval level. And at a small company, I've gone and we've purchased bottles and labels, and then my marketers come by and go, oh, we decided to change the color. And I'm like, we just bought 100,000 bottles, sorry, you're stuck with it. So that life example of how something like this could be very, very useful in connecting all the dots.
That's actually like super strong feedback, partially because, you know, in design and product development, especially when people are working with agencies, that happens, right? I forgot, I decided to change my mind, and that scope creep is one of the issues with products is communication. And so sign off and approval on certain things in certain phases is definitely something that we should think about in a way of like integrating that with stakeholders. No, I like it. I felt the pain in that many times, so I get it.
Right?
Another market mention, similar to this is the implementers or the consultancy is having a tool that are working through that same workflow as, you know, talking to some like the Deloitte and then actually saying, okay, this is how these integrate through all these different tools. So we use a project management to get the swim lanes in that, but there's no attachment to those, like the documentation, and that isn't very good. One thing I did get confused about at the start is when you're showing and from an investor standpoint, it kind of like just kind of was a little putting off. It was, you said about $3 trillion in market potential, but I think that's the revenue side of that. Is that correct?
Are you talking about the $3 trillion in loss, or
$3 trillion when you the first slide that you had on?
Yeah, let me.
I think you had it as a camera.
Yeah. It just seemed like you're talking to the revenue, on the revenue side of it. This is a cost savings tool, so you think you'd be a lot smaller market than that?
Is it this one or?
It's the first one.
This one here.
Correct, yeah. Yeah, so this is, because yours is basically like development process, right? So you're basically saving money on the cost side of it.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the revenue that
No.
you generated from that market, or you're saying $3 trillion is actually spent?
$3 trillion in losses from building either faulty products or not updating software or not having a relatively set process.
But is it $3 trillion because that's the revenue that would have been potentially gained from it? Or the actual physical cost? Because I mean, this is actually a cost product, so it's a savings of that.
You're right. It's definitely more along the lines of savings. That particular data point is more about the losses from either having legacy software that's not updated, not having products that are delivered successfully, updating, from Objective-C to Swift or something like that with technology.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right along those lines.
Okay, because that would be just more.
One more. Can I?
Your potential revenue.
Keep going. I just wanted to hear the feedback on what you thought was the.
Do everyone, we're all standing.
Like what you think a good change or something.
Well, I mean, the thing is this: is your potential revenue structure is going to be on the software that you're selling. So you should focus on the software cost structure that you're savings, because that's the true kind of like one-to-one apples to apples that I would focus on.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Hey Jay, Ms. Lund. Thank you for the great presentation. As a non-technical founder, what really stood out to me about your presentation was managing miscommunication, and that certainly can lead to lots of other kind of related development issues downstream. So, you know, if perhaps, you know, in a future iteration of this, if you focus a little bit more on how you manage that, you know, that would appeal to me. And also another thing that we talked about and weren't clear on, you know, is really whether this is intended for people who are sort of non-technical people, or if you're a product manager who doesn't, you know, code or something like that, or if it's for people who kind of, you know, have proficiency in both realms.
You know, it's a hard question to answer in the sense of like how this product will ultimately be, but I personally do think it should be built for more non-technical product managers. And the reason for that is, like, typically people that I've worked with, I think I've probably published or designed at least 1,000 apps, published at least 100 apps to the store, coded 2 or 3 myself. And a lot of people that I work with, they just don't know what the process should look like. And while I know it like the back of my hand, you have people that are kind of like pumping in thousands, millions of dollars into these products, into their marketing workflows, and they're not even building great user experience. And so if we can make this tool in a way where someone can jump in and the user experience can guide people in saying, hey, the first thing you should do is build out your logic. How do you do that? You hit the plus button here and you build out more screens. I think that would be a huge value add for a lot of people. And, you know, for people who are more proficient and more technically savvy, they can come in and kind of just maestro the tool, and, you know, maybe there's a higher enterprise plan for that.
Thank you.
Word.
Anyone? Coming. Yeah.
How's it going? Good job, by the way. Really liked it.
Thank you.
I guess to kind of preface my question with some context, I guess, is this marketed towards like business owners and entrepreneurs, or like you're saying project managers and developers?
So more towards like project stakeholders, and that can be an individual entrepreneur in a startup. It can be a product manager in like a Blizzard Entertainment, or it can be an agency. Like the company I used to work for before I started this product, it's Veris. It's just down the street. They're a $20 million a year software development firm, and they're constantly pumping products out. They would be an ideal client, and they're actually going to sign a letter of intent to test this product once we launch.
Because my question was the target base you were appealing to, is that for this service, I'm guessing? Is it open-ended for anyone of any field to use, or is this geared towards entrepreneurs in a specific industry, like tech or medical?
It's geared towards software development. Now, I would be lying if I didn't say that I haven't thought about taking the technology and trying to apply it to different fields, but we're so early stage that I'm just going to stick to what I know. And, you know, work on software products. So, and yes, even if you're a solopreneur, you should be able to build out your entire product in this. And if you're going to hire a designer in Portugal or Ukraine, the designer in Portugal can work on this. If you're going to hire a developer locally, the developer can come in and work on this with you.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Anyone else?
I got 2.
Double tap.
Twice.
It's coming back around. We were just talking about this. I guess I have like a question, but don't answer that one. So you've been talking a lot about agency, and one of my thoughts is, what's wrong with the agency model? It seems like you've got a tool that really, in my head, this is actually making an agency more efficient, and this ends up being a competitive advantage for an agency, whether it's your agency or whether it's another agency. And if you get into that thought process, what you may actually discover is if you're selling to an agency, that market's going to be smaller than going directly to the companies, so you're charging too little, but agencies will also pay more. And so, like, to me, you may have a product market fit problem, and it seems like you're actually improving the efficiency of an agency with kind of a tool set.
An agency is definitely ideal because they are, like, some projects are shipped really fast and really well, and some projects are not. Not every person on every team is, you know, really, really high level, but everyone has a chance to build a product. So I do agree with that. And in one of our launches, we've had a few agencies agree to use this that, you know, are working with Experian locally and Blizzard and American Airlines. So we're really excited to give them this tool and get feedback on that and see how that works. And, you know, if they're going to end up paying more anyway, like with Slack, like larger companies with communication, they prefer Slack and Slack. I mean, heck, Cisco Teams uses Slack, right? And they're the ones who make WebEx and all that stuff. So
maybe the question is, have you chosen your customer yet, or are you still feeling out where this tool actually
To be honest, we're still kind of feeling it out.
Okay.
The revenue that we've generated before, we're only working with startups, but there's a lot of inconsistencies there, and a lot of startups don't have funding. So that's why we started focusing on accelerators. But at the end of the day, when thinking about this tool, you're going to have more consistency with agencies and larger corporations building products. I do agree with that.
What is the minimum number of months that a customer can become a subscriber, and how many projects can they have going at once?
So minimum number of months that they can be a subscriber. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a full month because we're going to try to launch with a free plan, right? And they can use it to the best of their ability. Can you repeat the second question?
Yeah, how many projects can they have during that period?
So right now we are thinking about charging for more than one project. Like after the first project being free, like charging an additional fee per project after that. We have not settled on that. But from a capability standpoint, as many projects as you want, as long as you want to be on the platform.
So, and it was, I forgot, it was about $10 a month?
Per user after the initial free user. So we're assuming that the initial free user is going to be a entrepreneur or product manager, really a stakeholder of the initiative. And once they want to start adding more people to their team, kind of like the Slack model where the tool is free to use up to 10,000 messages or up to more people in your organization, we start charging that way.
Per user?
Per user.
Okay.
How do I find it? The hyper.com?
So on the gohyper.space link right now, that's really just kind of like the investor deck. The tool, we took it down because we're revamping. Once we launch, it'll be at that same domain that I just told you. But there might be, the beta version that we launched might still be live. I haven't checked this morning because I know we're making some changes. I can give you that link. It's myapp.pizza. Because we were going to name it Pizza App. That's the point. So.
Ladies and gentlemen, Hyper, aka Pizza App.